I'm Jaryt Hunziker. I'm the head girls basketball coach at Boonville High School in Boonville, Missouri. And today I'm going to be talking to Matt Baker, who's the girls coach at Fatima, Missouri, and Ernie Haag, who's at Stover, Missouri. You've just heard other coaches talk a little bit about the preseason, the off season. We're going to be talking about when it gets into the season, starting in November. But before we take and do that, I'm going to ask you guys just a couple quick questions to take and kind of introductory, I guess. So first one is, when it comes to Matt, when it comes to like your program, what are you kind of known for? What do coaches, what is your identity?
I think most schools and coaches would, say we're known for causing chaos, high pressure defense, and we switch up defenses a lot, different presses and different traps. So I would say, defensively, just speeding the game up, and then we like to shoot a lot of threes and keep tempo up as much as we can offensively as well. So speed, tempo, and chaos, I would say, most of the time.
So Matt, when it comes to like if I'm a coach that's getting ready to play Fatima, what would I maybe expect on any given night when it comes to what kind of defenses would I face since you switch them up all the time?
Man, we will run anything from a 1-2-2 is kind of our base press, and we'll change between that and a 2-2-1, and then we run a 1-1-1-2 three-quarter court press. Almost every night you'll see some type of triangle and two or inverted triangle and two. As much as we can throw at you to keep you preparing for us rather than, working on your stuff is kind of the goal. If we can keep teams trying to worry about what we're doing and more than what they're trying to do to us, we feel like we can get an advantage that way.
So you're pretty much saying most coaches dread coming into Fatima playing Lady Comets on any night, huh?
That's the goal, There's always games where I've had multiple players just look at us and shake their head. It's just like if we've done our job, win or lose, you don't want to see us again. You might beat us, but you probably don't want to come back.
Sure. Ernie, what about you?
I think our team is mainly known for our man-to-man defense. We play strictly 99% man-to-man, and offensively we're known for variation. We run basically a college system. Being I was a graduate assistant at Central Missouri State a long time ago, we run a lot of different set plays and really like to change things up offensively.
Okay. Over the years, I've been coaching almost, seems like about 17, 18 years, and there's always, you grow quite a bit throughout those years. And I always wonder, if I could go back and tell my younger self something or do something back then 20 years ago that I do now, how would that, benefit me and stuff. So how have you guys grown over the years, or if you could go back and tell your younger self something?
I think in my situation, the first few years, I probably made it a little bit more about me than I did about the kids. And that's something I really like to get across to younger coaches, is you got to understand it's about your team and it's about your kids and not about you and your winning percentage and what you do and what you're known for. It's what your team is known for. And, the other thing is probably to be a little nicer to the officials when you're younger, because I did have a little bit of a reputation of being a little harsh on officials when I started. And, probably that was coming from the college game. And I think I've really calmed that area down quite a bit.
Sure, and I know here at Boonville, relationships are huge. I think when you can take it and sell to the kids, how much you care about them, and they want to know how much you care before they care how much you know, type thing, and they'll kind of run through a brick wall for you and work that much harder and stuff. So what about you, Matt?
Yeah, I think, my biggest thing would be looking back, not worrying about winning or losing so much as a young coach and just focusing on what you can help your players with. And sometimes that doesn't have anything to do with basketball. Some kids, they need a stable place to be. Some of them have, just need somebody to believe in them. And you can be surprised how much you can get out of kids if you build those relationships like you're talking about. And definitely, like he said, getting to know the officials. It's hard getting officials as it is, and it's something I've really worked on from my younger, years, is building those positive relationships. And you're going to have your moments where you don't always get along, or you think, maybe you didn't get the call you want, but that's something I've definitely really tried to work on the last few years, is getting to know the officials as a person, not just somebody that shows up on Tuesday night and, work with them instead of against them.
Sure, and especially when we got a shortage in officials, sometimes building those relationships is key to get them to continue to stay as the officials and stuff, because a shortage would be a lot of problems for any state, not just here. But kind of shifting our way to practices, is there when it comes to your guys' practice, is there a certain structure? When it could be something from time to how you do your drills. What are ways you guys structure your practices?
Well, I'm OCD, so my practice plans, I always post them on my classroom door in the morning, and then I post them on the locker room door, and it's down to the minute. But I always make sure we do some dynamic warm-ups. I start them the same way every day. That way they know what's coming, and it kind of allows them to get out of school mode and get into basketball mode and kind of focus. And then we try to do, with our tempo and stuff, everything we build is full court. So we have a few breakdown half court stuff, but it's usually disadvantage work and full court work. And, time-wise, we don't change much from beginning to end as far as time. I don't like to go more than about 90 minutes tops. Even if it's late in the year, we're going to get in for an hour, maybe hour and a half tops. And if we can't get it done, then, you're probably going to lose 16, 17, 18-year-olds' attention by that point. So
now, with you posting your practices on the door, how much do you value input from the girls throughout, not just November, but maybe even throughout the season, on getting their opinion on certain drills or certain things?
They always have something to say about it. I don't put much weight behind it. There's certain drills we do every day. There's some toughness drills and full court drills that they just don't want to do, but we do them and listen to them a little bit, but usually I'm pretty rigid on what we're going to do, so listen a little bit and move on.
Okay, Ernie, what about you?
I think same thing with Coach Baker is that I'm very structured on practice time. We start at 2 hours, and then by the end of the year we're down to 90 minutes. But we are going to go by my practice plan and stick to it by the minute, because if I get off on something, I might lose practice totally. One thing that we always do is after the first half an hour is when we run our sprints. We don't wait till the end of practice. I know a lot of teams are end of practice, so my kids they're done with it. So they know when we start going full court, they don't need to save energy or anything like that for sprints. And another thing we do, I go over the practice schedule with the kids right before we start. I don't post it, but I cover what we're going to cover in a little team meeting. It's about a minute long, and we kind of use that time to get our focus on what we're going to be doing for that 2 hour period or hour and a half period, so they're hopefully focused and ready to go on what the job is.
And do you guys have a preference on, I know some coaches have the opinion they want to work on maybe some defensive stuff towards the beginning, offense at the end when they don't have legs, just like in a game. Do you guys, when it comes to structure and stuff, certain types of the practice is your special situations, your offense, defense, or does it change up throughout November?
I think we use we're probably more offensive at the start of practice with shooting drills and getting their legs going and getting going, and then we usually finish with one as well. And we always finish with what we call a pride drill, which is probably what a Coach Baker would be, a toughness drill, to really send the message at the end of practice that you're going to have to play tough down the stretch, and in the final 2 or 3 minutes, there's going to be some tough situations you're just going to have to fight your way through.
Yeah, I mean, we don't spend, especially in November, you're just getting going, and we spend a lot of time early on just system stuff, or what presses, what press breaks. We don't spend a whole lot of time on situations, and even scouting early on in the season. As we move on through the year and we're getting closer to districts, practices will turn more into game prep, but early on in the year we spend all of our time working on pressing and press breaks, and a few situations here or there you need to have 1 or 2 in maybe in a quarter play or something, but most of the time it's just system work.
Sure. Now, speaking of the word system, is coaches' opinions of this vary as well. Where do you have a certain system that, with your system, do you like to fit players to your system, or do you try to tweak things, the systems, to kind of fit your players?
I would say both. I think that's the kind of the cool part about high school, or maybe the frustrating part. It's kind of a double-edged sword, but you have what you have. You don't get to pick players, and we want to play a certain way, but you have your years where you just can't do what you want to do, and you might be able to tweak something here or there in place as close as you want to. As far as like for us, we always want to get up and down, but we've had years where it just doesn't fit, and you got to work with what you work with. So I would say both for us.
Okay.
I think in our case, we've played multiple systems over the year. We've played a lot of zone. One year we were 6'1", 6'2", and not very athletic, so we played a lot more zone, and now we're kind of our identity anyway is more of a man-to-man type basketball team. We try to get our kids to play that way. Sometimes we have to. I know Gene Durden down in Beaufort, Georgia would tell you adapt instead of adopt, and that's kind of our philosophy is we're going to adopt to the kids we have and the talent we have, and hopefully put the pieces in the right place. We have our bread and butter stuff that we're going to do every year, but we are going to make small changes year in and year out. And just like any other person, as a coach, you need to be a lifelong learner, and to do that, your kids are going to have to change a little bit with and the game's changing, so we got to change with the game a little bit as well.
When it comes to your system, how much do you try to get in before? What pieces do you try to have in before that first game, or are you one who tries to put it in a little bit here and by districts have everything in?
I think we're gonna start slow. At our first game, we're usually gonna have maybe 3 unbalanced plays. We're gonna be able to press one of our presses. Obviously our man-to-man defense, a little bit of zone defense, and a few sets here on offense, and then we gradually build. There's things that we always add over Christmas break, and then there's stuff we will add right before our conference tournament, which is usually the first week in February, and then maybe a little tweak here and there right before district.
Okay. Before we get into our first game, we always have, usually here in Missouri, we can have a jamboree. What's your guys' opinion on, do you like jamborees? What do you try to get out of the jamborees? Would you rather use that week to take and more deal with yourself and have practice? What's your guys' take on jamborees?
We generally don't play in jamborees. It seems like about every third year we'll end up in a jamboree. I'm not a fan of them in most situations, but it kind of depends on where we're at as a team. Like last year we didn't play in one, but we had a very experienced group of kids and didn't necessarily feel like we needed that to be ready to go the first day. This year we're a really young group, so we went ahead and got in a jamboree. And I think the biggest thing for your freshmen and sophomore players, if you're lucky enough to have those kids on varsity, is getting them just that little bit of work out some of the nervousness and get a little bit of a game feel in a situation where they don't feel they're going to feel the nerves, but it's not a game's not on the line, and it gives them a little bit of opportunity to see some things, see some varsity speed, and work some of that out. So we're kind of 50-50 at Fatima.
Stover, we do enjoy having a jamboree. We host it usually every year, and people like to come to our new gym. And I think the thing we do maybe different than everybody is I practice that day. We go ahead and practice, and then we use the jamboree just kind of as a scrimmage. And we don't run everything we normally run during the season, but we use it the opportunity to get to look at all of our kids against different talent, because your kids they're used to guarding their teammates in practice, and they understand their quirks and what they like to do. So it gives us an opportunity to see different offenses, different defenses, and things played a different way and guarding different kids. So that's kind of the purpose we use it for.
What about the game before, trying to get in a game before Thanksgiving? I know some coaches here at Boonville, we've had our first game before Thanksgiving, knowing we have a little bit of a break there, and we've played the following week after Thanksgiving. I didn't know what you guys thought about advantages or disadvantages of having a game before Thanksgiving.
We've always had one since I've been at Fatima. We always get in an early season game, and I love it. I like being able to get in right away and get your kids and get a look at what you have, and it helps us too with not having that, not necessarily feeling like we need that jamboree because we get a game in pretty quick. So I like having that early game. being able to get a feel for what you have and make some adjustments over that first break that you get.
I'd agree with Coach Baker. We like to play early and get a look at our kids and get prepared. And you got Thanksgiving break there where we can get a couple of good practices in to really prepare for the rest of our games, because you never know when you're going to lose a game in the state of Missouri because of weather. And sometimes, you get to the end of the year and you're playing 3, 4, 5 games in that last week, and it just gets us a game out of the way and gets us a look at what we can and can't do and things we need to fix before we have a tournament right after Thanksgiving. So it kind of helps us get prepared for that.
Okay. Going back with practice, is there anything you guys do that's kind of unique or that the girls like to do in practice that makes it competitive?
I think one thing we do that maybe is a little different is we have wins or losses for every practice as a team. I put my assistant coach in charge of that, and if the practice is what he would call good or decent, we'll call it a win. If we have a bad practice, it's a loss, and we chart wins and losses for as far as practice goes. So the girls know what is a winning effort and what is a losing effort in practice day in and day out. And there's most years where we're a lot more wins than losses, but when you have a team that's struggling, sometimes you have way too many losses in practice, and I think that kind of sets the stage for what's going to happen during the season.
Yeah, I'd be a little off topic, I think, but we always try to catch a practice, sometimes after a win, maybe after a loss, and come in and surprise them. We'll play dodgeball, or we'll kind of throw a monkey wrench in there sometimes, just because it's such a long season. They'll maybe you have a tough loss in overtime, and the next night you come into practice, and instead of they're expecting to run their butts off, and you throw something different in there and just change the pace up and kind of keep them guessing every now and then. So
sure, I think it's always nice to have those days where they come in, you have the dodgeball set out, and they're kind of looking at you like, what are we doing? But you can just tell we need those days. Is there anything early on in the season, such as around November, so do you guys do any certain special things with your teams and stuff like off the court?
We've never had anything off the court, really. I think one of the neat parts about Missouri is we have so many small towns, and the communities are so, close knit that we've never really had any off the court stuff. But I don't know about Coach.
We are close enough that we usually go up and watch UCM play one night. We go up and make a trip up, take the team up, so they can see a college atmosphere and see a college basketball game, and we'll call that our practice for that day, just so they can see the game at a little more elite level. And in the past we've taken or we're still planning. I had to make sure one of my kids was old enough still. We're talking about going and doing the ghost tour at the Jeff City prison as a good bonding thing. Since we're kind of in the middle of the state, we can.
Sure. And I think going and watching, the next level, that college is important, because I think you'll probably have girls on your team that would like to play at that next level, and it's good to let them see what it might take to do so. So I'm sure you get a lot of feedback or anything, but do they say anything once you guys come back from?
A lot of times it's wow.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand the elite level that some of those kids and Warrensburg's in they were Final 8 last year and won the national championship just a few years ago, and Dave has an elite program, so they get to see the pace and the passing and the skills that it actually takes to play at that level, and sometimes it's a good reality check for some that think they're ready to play at that level.
Sure.
and sometimes it's a good wake-up call to I need to work harder to get to that level.
Okay. What about goals in games? You guys have like goals that you try to set for your teams, and maybe it's deflections, maybe it's steals, maybe it's field goal percentage, whatever it is, especially early on in the season. You guys usually set goals?
We used to have goals all the time, what specific things that we were trying to do every game, scouting reports, but we basically boiled it down to 2 goals every game. We just write it on the board, and it's for us, we feel like if we can get up 30 3-point field goal attempts and get 30 steals and deflections combined, so not 15 of each or however it works out, but usually it's 30 and 30 is what we write on the board. It's simple. It's something that they can put in their mind, and just reinforces that idea of the tempo that we're looking for.
I think in our program, it's cutting down on turnovers, since we're going to run, where we're right now we're a fast-paced up and down the floor team. We want to stay under 16 turnovers, which maybe seems like a lot, but when you push the ball at a really hard pace, sometimes you're just going to make some silly turnovers. So we want to keep it at that. And as Coach was saying, we have usually pick out a number on deflections and steals as a pressing team.
Sure, especially when you're talking about deflections and steals, that just brings the intensity up, and it kind of sets the tone at the beginning. But I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time, and hopefully people watching this can get something about what we kind of experience as coaches throughout the month of November.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.